Hello students, welcome to part 2 of chapter 4, Managing in a Global Environment. In this part 2, we will be talking about different market entry strategies that firms use to sell products and services in foreign markets. So we will be looking at how these different strategies represent alternative ways to sell the products and services of multinational corporations. Starting with exporting, obviously exporting here is a strategy of transferring products for sale to foreign countries, right? So in this case, the corporation maintains its production facilities within the home nation and transfers its products for sale in foreign countries. So as you can see here, there are a lot of advantages of exporting. First of all, it enables a company to market its products in other countries at little resource cost and with limited risk, right? The risk and the cost are the most beneficial aspects of exporting. So exporting, however, entails a number of numerous problems based on physical distances, government regulations, foreign currencies, and cultural differences. But obviously, it is much less expensive than committing the firm's own capital to build factories of production in host countries. In the case of outsourcing, outsourcing is a form of offshoring. Another term to describe outsourcing is offshoring, which involves engaging in the international division of labor so that the work activities can be done in countries with the cheapest sources of labor and supplies. The most recent trend in outsourcing, especially outsourcing of the core processes, they are auditing and chemistry research. The third international market strategy that we will be talking about is licensing, which involves also franchising. Licensing is a strategy which enables a company to produce and market its products in another country. So it's a strategy, in other words, in which the corporation, meaning the licensor, in one country makes certain resources available to companies in another country, which is the licensee. So therefore, we have two players here, the licensor, the parent company, versus the licensee in the host country or in a foreign environment, right? So these resources can include technology, managerial skills, patent and trademark rights that enables the licensee or the franchisee to produce and market the product similar to what the licensor has been producing. So franchising, in other words, is a special form of licensing that occurs when the franchisee buys a complete package of materials and services, including equipment, products, product ingredients, trademark and trade name rights, managerial advice, and a standardized operating system. So a lot of firms like McDonald's, Subway, hotels like Marriott, Hilton, uses franchising to provide services globally and internationalize their business operations. In the case of direct investing, investing is a type of strategy that is more costly, that involves more costs than all the strategies that we have talked about. So in this case, the corporation is involved in managing and also the ownership of the productive assets, which distinguishes from the other entry strategies that permits less managerial control. Okay, in this case, there's more managerial control, high level of involvement, and also the control and the ownership of the assets in a foreign environment. Okay, the most popular form of direct investment is to engage in strategic alliances and partnerships, as in the case of joint venture. Joint ventures are very, very common. Let's say, right, so the company in this case shares the costs and the risks with another firm, typically in the host country, to develop new products, build a manufacturing facility, or set up sales and distribution networks. Okay? A second option for direct investing is to create a wholly owned affiliate, wholly owned foreign affiliate, over which the company has complete control. For instance, in the case of wholly owned affiliate, think about a situation where the company buys a local affiliate overseas. So here we're really talking about direct acquisition of an affiliate, right, which may provide cost savings over exporting by shortening distribution channels and reducing storage and transportation costs. Walmart, for instance, is a very good example of a wholly owned affiliate strategy because it buys local grocery stores or third parties in places like Mexico, which are also doing business with Walmart. But the affiliate, that local affiliate, is totally owned and controlled by Walmart. Okay? Sometimes the name, Walmart changes the name, but most of the time it does not necessarily change the name because the locals are more familiar with the name of that local grocery store. Okay? The third one is the greenfield venture. The third form of direct investment is the greenfield venture, which is known to be the riskiest direct investment, most costly and the riskiest direct investment, okay? Which occurs when a company builds a subsidiary from scratch in a foreign country, okay? This is like a startup, a new startup operation, okay? The advantage is that, of course, the subsidiary knows exactly what the company wants, and it's already built by the company, by the parent company itself. The company is not taking over a local affiliate, rather it's creating that local affiliate. And this type of subsidiary has the potential to be highly profitable because it's controlled, it's fully controlled by the parent company. The disadvantage, however, is that the company has to acquire all market knowledge, materials, the people, the staff, and the know-how in a different culture, and the mistakes can be possible. For instance, Nissan has built subsidiaries in the United States. I think this is sort of like a good investment, a good example of green venture, which has become successful over time, but initially it had these difficulties of not knowing the market, not knowing the local market very well. Okay? But it turned out to be a highly lucrative and profitable investment opportunity for Nissan. So basically, here we're talking about really how the managers should really be mindful in the global marketplace, right? With these different investment strategies, because this basically involves planning, organizing, leading, controlling in multiple countries, which can be challenging. So in other words, all of these international market strategies that we have thus far talked about involve these cultural barriers and challenges to different forms of investment. Therefore, the managers must always be mindful of these challenges in the global marketplace. Okay? So the factors that we already learned in Chapter 3 also apply to the external environment. The key factors in the external environment here, the economic challenges, the legal political challenges, and socio-cultural challenges, which I have already talked about in Chapter 3. So please review under each category what legal political means, socio-cultural means, and economic factors mean. So basically the economic environment here is all about what the companies do. They screen their economic environment, especially the level of economic development, before they invest in other countries. So economic development obviously differs widely among the countries and regions of the world, because countries can be categorized as developing or developed countries, right? And we're using GDP per capita income, as one of the most important criteria to determine whether a country is developed or developing. Developing countries can sometimes be referred as less developed countries, like LDCs, less developed countries. This criterion traditionally used to classify countries based on GDP per capita income. For instance, Norway is highest GDP per capita income in the world, which is like $81,000. Around it was $81,000 when I checked the last time. But you keep wondering why this is the case. It's a rich country with natural resources, especially oil. But also the level of taxation is very high. The taxation of especially countries rich and the wealthy individuals. So most international firms are headquartered in economically advanced, meaning developed countries, right? However, a lot of other companies are also investing in Asia, Eastern Europe, and Latin America, looking at these different criteria of how to invest and why to invest, such as the infrastructure, the country's physical capabilities, whether those physical infrastructure supports the economic activities, such as transportation, energy producing facilities, and communications. Okay? Companies operating in LDCs also must contend with lower levels of technology and perplexing logical, distributional, and communication problems. So here are some of the factors that they will be looking at before investing in another country. Government policies involving the political risk, political instability, the size of the economy, right? The political risk mainly involves loss of assets, earning power of the country, managerial control, loss of managerial control due to politically based events or actions by host governments, such as the war, the invasion of Ukraine by Russia, or some of the instability generated by this war, right? So political risk also involves government takeovers of property and acts of violence directed against a firm's properties or employees. Okay? It involves other things such as riots, revolutions, wars, civil disorders, government upheavals, right? Government laws and regulations obviously differ from country to country and present a challenge for international firms before they make investment decisions. To better understand a country's competitiveness, we need to look at several indicators, not only one, not only the indicator of economic development. We need to look at several indicators, right, in addition to the factors that we just talked about, such as the market size, GDP per capita, political risk, and also the country's competitiveness index, right? How competitive are the multinational companies? How competitive is the economy or different sectors of the economy? So we already talked about in the previous chapter how China is growing market, growing consumer market, is also becoming a producer market internationally, especially in agricultural products, right? So a lot of US farmers buy the grass and animal feed from China. US companies also outsource labor and raw materials from China. Okay, so the issue that China is has not only become a consumer of Western product, but it has also become a producer and supplier. Okay, so which kind of make regulations and the government policies in China or doing business in China somewhat of a challenge to the Western companies. Okay. Brazil and India, of course, are other service giants in the world economy. Brazil has gained the increasing attention of managers. Although its economic growth has slowed down in 2011, it is still the fastest growing emerging economies in the world, with large and growing agricultural, mining, manufacturing, and different service sectors. For instance, the Brazilian government has initiated major investments in the development of infrastructure such as highways, ports, and electricity projects. And then we have a number of international trade alliances in the world to facilitate free trade, starting with the General Agreement on Tariff and Trade, GATT, also known as GATT. Right? It was signed in 1947 and starting or establishing a set of rules to ensure non-discrimination and provide clear procedures, settle dispute, and encourage participation of less developed countries in international trade. So GATT directly sponsored 8 rounds of international trade negotiations aimed at reducing trade barriers and restrictions. WTO sort of is an extension of GATT. So it was formed in 1995 as an extension and a maturation of GATT into a permanent global institution that can monitor international trade and has the legal authority to solve disputes on some 400 different trade issues. So obviously it's an intergovernmental organization that is concerned with the regulation of international trade between nations. It is most importantly focuses its efforts on reduction of tariffs and other barriers to free trade. And then we have the other trade alliance, which is the European Union, right? Which was established as an European Economic Community initially in 1957 to improve economic and social conditions among its members, and has since expanded to a 27-nation alliance. The biggest expansion obviously came in 2004 when 10 new members from Central and Eastern Europe joined the European Union. The goal of EU is to create a single common market system for Europe's millions of consumers, allowing people, goods and services to move freely among the countries. Don't forget, EU is a common market. Even more than that, it's a customs union. It's a customs union. It's not only a free trade area, a common market, but it's also a customs union because of the ability it provides for people, for Europeans, to move from one country to another, to get a work permit in different countries, so they can work anywhere in Europe. If you're, let's say, Spanish, you can work in Italy. If you're Hungarian, you can work in France, right? So it gives it this ability for people to move across borders within Europe. Okay, so this is one of the most important things about European Union. It is not only about the freedom of factors of production, right? But also it is about the freedom of movement of labor, right? It's not only the factors of production moving freely within Europe, but also labor moving freely within Europe and across countries. The most significant contribution of the European Union is the monetary revolution and the introduction of the euro, the single European currency that could eventually replace 27 European currencies. However, some analysts think that a broad breakup of the Eurozone is unlikely, which has proven incorrect. As we can see, Great Britain most recently, 2 years ago, exited from the EU, which is called Brexit. Brexit really undermined our notions of Europe being a global common market, because UK thought that the benefits of being in the European Union did not really exceed the cost, or the cost exceeded the benefits of being in the European Union. Therefore, they decided to exit from the EU a few years ago. So this also goes contrary to the assumption that nations cannot break from EU. They can break from EU, but they also pay the costs of breaking from EU. So nowadays, Great Britain has been negotiating the fine with EU and trying to determine the conditions from breaking from the European Union. And then the final international trade alliance that we will be talking about is North American Free Trade Agreement, which is just a free trade agreement, not a common market or customs union like the European Union, because there is no freedom of the movement of labor across the borders. Okay, NAFTA went into effect on January 1st, 1994, and merged United States, Canada, and Mexico into a single mega market. The agreement essentially broke down all the tariffs and trade restrictions over a 15-year period in a number of key areas. Opinions, however, remain still divided over the benefits of NAFTA. Some call it a success, and others refer it as a dismissal or dismal failure. Supporters say that, on the other hand, it has increased trade, investment, and income, and continues to enable all three countries to compete and more effectively with rival Asian and US firms. Here are the nations of the European Union, and it's important to remember that not all member countries are necessarily members of the European monetary zone, which is the euro. Some countries are still using their own currencies. Not all members of the European Union are necessarily using euro. So Bulgaria, for instance, is a very interesting and good example of that. And the UK, up until the Brexit, never used euro. It kept the pound in international trade and monetary transactions. It never used euro. Even though UK was a member of European Union, it was not a member of Eurozone. Okay, so you have to make this clear distinction between European Union members and Eurozone members. Those are totally two different things. Again, in this part 2, I talk about different international market strategies as well as the different international trade alliances and agreements. Thanks for listening to my lecture so far, and hopefully in the next chapter we will be talking about business ethics and corporate culture. See you next time. Have a good day. Bye-bye.